it sounds like it was really hard. Like you were writing on your arm, right? Dance moves that you can remember through the rehearsal process. Is that?
Well, so much of what we did there with Bill was would happen at the 11th hour. Like so much of
right up to
his,
the end.
so like so much of what he would discover and so much of the creative process for him would happen right in the end. So we were always just madly trying to keep up with him and what we were doing. So something that we knew for, let's say, 6 weeks had now been turned upside down and inside out. So then we would have to, it was just an example, but like to write down the new order of events or like what the choreography was on our arm so we could see it while we were on stage.
Wow.
Like it sounds bizarre. Yeah, during the show, you just sort of take a little glance and, okay, now we're going to go to that section from here. And yeah, I mean, one time I remember writing it on a piece of paper and putting it on the wall backstage and then realizing that I wasn't going to be able to see it. Like, I can't leave the stage to find out what comes next. I have to bring it with me. And there's no pockets. So
wow.
That's what we did. I mean, it's kind of a rare example, but it's just an illustration of the kind of recklessness that he would work with, which I loved. I loved the ride of that, the roller coaster of his reckless creative ability.
As a virtue, right?
As a virtue. As something to aspire to in my own work, absolutely.
And completely intoxicating, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. We mentioned doubt a couple seconds ago, and I brought it up because you've actually talked about doubt speaking of virtues, as a virtue that contributes to your success. So how is doubt a good thing?
Doubt is about my relationship to the unknown, to what I can't know and what I don't know when I'm creating something. And so there's that kind of aspect of doubt, which feels potent and charged and full of possibility. And then the other part of doubt is the more difficult part, the uncomfortable part, where I'm making things and I'm not sure they're any good, right? Like there's that part,
right.
Which we all deal with in various ways. But the kind of doubt that I find inspiring is the experience of not knowing and having a dialogue with what I cannot understand, and trying to create something with that or inside that, let's say, and to be convinced of something feels more restful, feels more stable, feels more peaceful. Doesn't have a kind of tension in it, that feeling of being convinced.
And you need tension.
I think so. I feel like I need a lot of tension in order to create things. I need a kind of like a vibrating tension that kind of becomes an engine that helps me to make things.
You're watching Banff Centre Talks. I'm speaking with Canadian choreographer Crystal Pite. Crystal Pite is at the Banff Centre developing Betroffenheit, a dance piece co-created with Jonathon Young from Electric Company Theatre. The piece is premiering at the Pan Am Games in Toronto on July 23rd, 2015. Crystal, you don't dance anymore.
Not on stage, no.
Not on stage anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe with your son.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Partly because you say you don't feel invincible anymore. Remember saying that?
I remember. So I don't recall ever having felt invincible though earlier. That's why I'm not sure
Right.
but about the anymore. But the knees, the lower back, the neck. I'm 44. Things are brittle, or more brittle than they used to be, and and I don't have time to train.
Right.
Now that I have a 4.5-year-old son and trying to balance the work that I do as a creator with motherhood, and there's no time in there for me as a performer anymore.
Right.
To take care of my body the way I need to take care of it in order to be able to dance. So that kind of just dissolved and fell away a little while ago. And I always wondered if I'd still want to choreograph if I couldn't dance anymore.
Yeah.
I wondered about that. I wondered if I'd still... Because up until then, I had always used my own body as the tool to make choreography.
Right.
I always had this, like... I'd always discovered everything through my own limbs, body.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering how I would do it if I couldn't move anymore.
Were you worried?
Like
Were you
that
scared at all? Or?
Yeah, well, just concerned that maybe I just wouldn't feel like choreographing anymore, or that I wouldn't feel inspired, or I wouldn't feel connected.
Right.
And so I've been really happy to find out that it's actually been quite the opposite. That that through sort of taking my own dancing out of the picture and finding choreography through the people that I'm working with, through their bodies, through their abilities, has kind of has taken away a kind of limitation, in a way. I think that interestingly, and it could be for so many different reasons, but I feel like my choreography has gained complexity and it's gained volume as I've moved away from delivering it always through my own self.
Like getting out of your head, or in your case, getting out of your body in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess there are certain pathways that work inside my own body, and so those same pathways would still keep coming out in the vocabulary.
Mm.
And so moving those pathways out of the room, so to speak, and letting new pathways emerge through other bodies has just been a great discovery. I mean, I was always doing that anyway. But now I'm really, really leaning on the people that I'm working with, and I'm working with such incredible, incredible dancers.
And you've worked with many of these for years, right? So you must have a shorthand going.
Yeah, and when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about the dancers I've been working with for a long time.
Yeah.
Because then I know I can rely on them to understand the ideals of what we're doing. And then they take it and run through their own body. Whereas if I'm going and working with a group of dancers that I've never worked with before, who don't necessarily know those old pathways or those ideals that came from me, then I have to get up and demonstrate a lot more.
Okay.
And usually in those processes, I end up really, really, really sore. The first 3 days, just hurling myself around the studio with no warm up, and I haven't even warmed up in 3 years, and I'm just trying to throw some information out into the room so that then we can work.
You talked about just now about the I guess the liberation you have discovered in not needing to dance and being able to choreograph and work with the dancers who already know you. But do you envy anything about what they still do as dancers?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I would love to be able to dance like them.
Yeah.
I would love to experience what they experience.
What do they experience?
You'd have to ask them.
Yeah. But I mean, what's it like? I can't possibly dance remotely near like anything artistic, but like to be in a movement on stage with somebody else.
I mean, depending on what you're doing, I think at its best, the experience of dancing is just this heightened experience of the present moment. You cannot think about anything else. You cannot be anywhere else but in your body. It's like your body is your location. And when you're dancing, you're just profoundly engaged at being in it. And that is so resonant. It's such an incredible state. And of course, you don't achieve it all the time as a dancer, but when you do, it's not like anything else. And it feels like a ride. Sometimes it feels like flying. Sometimes it feels like tumbling. Sometimes it feels like being carried or rocked. I mean, there's all kinds of different experiences inside dancing. But I think most dancers would probably talk about that present moment experience.
And yet the other person dancing, feeling the same thing, is connecting, colliding, working with you. That must just lift it up even more then.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. And interestingly, I also feel that sense, even if I don't dance, I feel that visceral feeling when I watch them. As I know what it feels like, and I feel like I ride the wave of that choreography right with them.
Yeah.
So it's a great discovery to know that I'm still dancing through them.
We started talking about storytelling. I think you could argue classical ballet is the most fundamental form of storytelling through dance. But I guess it's this argument where modern dance tends to resist that style of expression. Why? Is that just...
Well, I would expect that, I don't really know very much about this.
Okay.
But I would expect that contemporary dance has pushed against story because they're pushing against tradition. And they're trying to find new things. And old things from like the classical ballet world, like big story ballets, are there to push against. And so I think that maybe in contemporary dance we've thrown the baby out with the bathwater with that rejection of story.
Right.
Certainly I'm not the only person that's working with narrative or text or all those things in my choreography. Like there are countless of us that are doing this.
Sure.
But I would say sort of as a general movement against story probably comes from that pushing against tradition. But we I don't even know who we're talking about when I say we. I'll talk about me. I I'm not so interested in story ballet. Like, I'm not interested in maybe working with story the same way you would in the classical way, but I'm interested in using story as a way to get at humanity. And like I was saying earlier, just using story as a way to connect to other humans.
Right.
So for me, that has a lot of value, and that's something to take with us. And it's always this dance, right, between pushing against traditional ways and yet hanging on to the things that have value for us now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And given the way you've developed, the way you tell stories, I don't know, can you still enjoy the Nutcracker at Christmas time?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to make one. I want to make a Nutcracker one day.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
But
yeah.
like throw out the conventions and
No,
grab,
just do
keep
one, like
just-
with a gingerbread man and everything. I really, I would love to, but no, I know what your question is. Yes, I can enjoy them. Other than Nutcracker, I don't know if I would take on any of those other big monster stories.
Right.
But we'll see what's up ahead.
Who knows?
I don't know.
You know, we tell each other stories, you know, in a broad sense, so that as people we can pass on our knowledge to each other.
Yeah.
It's about sharing our stories, sending it forward. What knowledge do you think you're trying to pass on to your audience?
It's a really great question. It's really hard to answer. And of course, it should be the thing that I'm most most able to say, should be the thing that I know more than anything. But I think that is what I'm still trying to discover. And for me, it's less about passing on my knowledge than it is about creating the conditions for a kind of connection with other humans. And how they engage with that is up to them. I have my own discoveries through every process. I learn things and I gain knowledge through every project that I do, every life experience that I have. But I don't feel like I'm trying to explain or to teach or share that knowledge with people. It's more like making space for that civic ritual of the theater and for that shared human experience that we have in that place.
Crystal Pite, everyone.